If you do not dare to assume the state, you will remain as you are. Neville Goddard, no one to change but self. Okay? Guys, this is going to be another massive video, a follow-up to my last video. But before we start, welcome back to ZAKARI HIKARI. My name is Zach, and here we discuss everything related to manifestation, conscious manifestation, Neville Goddard, the law of assumption, all that good stuff. If you guys are done circling the same identity, going through the same loops and patterns of relationships and not getting what you want, coaching is available. Let's find the blind spots and shift it. All right? All my information is down in the description box below. So I really wanted to start with this video and really go into Neville because I don't care what coach is out there. There's certain things that Neville has said that I do. Obviously, his teachings evolved as time went on, but it's the same message. Consciousness is the only reality. And in this video, I'm going to go through examples breaking down what that means and what it means to actually assume a state. Because there seems to be a lot of confusion out there. And if you're saying, oh, just go to I am and just be free and float around, fine, you're happy. But I'm going to talk about why you're actually bypassing what it is that you want, why that's actually an escape mechanism, and you're all with love. But I really want you guys to get this. I want you to get it, okay? So, the quote, if you do not dare to assume the state, you will remain as you are. All right? That's Neville. And it's the part that I feel like almost everyone skips recently. I don't know. I don't know what people are talking about recently, but from what I've heard, okay? See, a lot of coaches will just say, just be I am. They'll say, just drop into awareness, float into the feeling of being endlessly, forever and ever and ever. And that's all you have to do. And that's not the message. That is not the message, and that's why you don't have your thing. Okay? In the comments, people write, well, when I just sit and I am, I feel so expansive and it feels so amazing and so limitless. But here's the hard truth, guys. You're even then you are still being an identity. That is still an identity that you are assuming. Because as a human, you are always assuming an identity. You can't just assume I am as a full-on identity because you have to cloth it with an identity to actually be something. You are always aware of being something. Always. Like, you can't escape this, guys. You can't escape it. You can't escape identity. You just can't. I don't care who wants to come in and argue and try to change that. You can't escape it. This is literally what Neville was teaching. I've read shit tons of Neville. This is all he talks about. And I've read all the coaches. It's all about identity. So, you came into the human experience as consciousness, as I am, to literally forget that you are the I am, to have the human experience, to literally have the range of emotions, to have the linear timeline to play the game, and to assume an identity. That's how you play the game. You must assume an identity. And, Neville, he never stopped at awareness, guys. He literally said, assume the state. Dare to die to who you were, right? The old man is what he talks about. And we all know we're in infinite state. So you're not limited to one. I get where people are coming from, where they're like, yes, but you're still assuming a state. And most people are so stuck on one state that they're not assuming something else. Because if you don't dare to die to who you were, you're going to just keep looping forever and ever as the same self, no matter how limitless it feels in the moment. And you can go look in the community tab. I just posted, by the time this video's up, it would have been a couple days ago, but I posted a success story. Some lady, she was looping for 10 years. 10 years. I should have got the screenshot before I started recording this video. 10 years on the same fucking roundabout way of all these coaches on her spiritual journey for 10 years. And we chatted, and you can read all the success right there. Body dysmorphia, gone, relationships, all improved, everything's all shifting because she assumed. She was able to locate, holy shit, this is what I was assuming. This is who I was being. This is the identity I kept falling into. All right? He never stopped at awareness. You will still loop the same identity no matter how limitless it feels in the moment and how good it feels. You're almost afraid to assume an identity because then you feel that resistance, so you're not getting what you want, guys. So that's the sting. Every day you refuse to assume, you're not standing still. You're doubling down on the very identity that you say that you want to leave behind, that you don't want to be anymore. Every day that you're just not assuming. You're still assuming the same state. You're just doubling down on it in a different way. It's just another form of escaping it to feel better about it. Because some coach out there said something. And I've seen a lot of coaches, and there's coaches out there who say, go to the AM and go this, but they always say you need to assume an identity. All right? Tom Kieran's message, I've watched him for years. Assume an identity. You're always assuming an identity. So we're going to go into this as well. Okay? So let's talk about Neville's progression. Neville laid it out in order. All right? Be still and know that you are. That is the beginning of a conscious awareness of being. Now, in that stillness and knowing, assume that you are what you desire to be. Claim it. Feel it. It will externalize itself. Consciousness is the only reality. That's what that's from. So we have awareness, assumption, embodiment. Neville never ended with awareness. He didn't say, be still and know that you are, full stop. He said, now assume the law of assumption, the power of awareness. That's his whole thing. That's the whole law of assumption. It's called the law of assumption or the law of being. You are being an identity. Literally, what my video that I did before, if I remember to link it, I'll link it. But it's about, you're literally like, you are in a holographic universe and you are through your one focus point of awareness, collapsing different 3D light particles into one physical 3D experience, but you can't escape the 3D experience. No matter, I don't care what you say, you cannot escape it while you're here. That is the point. You can know that you have the option to choose different characters and different experiences. Yes, you can get there, but you still have to assume it. And when usually how the illusion works, you're going to be assuming some type of identity with some type of frequency. As Neville would call it, your dwelling state. All right? So, yes, awareness is the seed, but identity is the fruit. Literally, like that's, you don't just stop at awareness. You stop at the identity to assume what it is that you want to be living. All right? That's why neutrality, or just I am by itself, it never stabilizes anything. It's not stable. It's always moving. It feels good in the moment. It feels amazing in the moment. Of course it does. And you can go there and know that, but it never clothes itself. Awareness is the canvas, guys. Awareness is literally the canvas, and identity is the painting. And the world can only reflect what you paint. It only reflects the painting that you make. That is the reflection back to you. That's what the world reflects. So if your painting is still the same old rejected, waiting, overlooked self, or the not prioritized, or the getting fucking breadcrumbs, or not having the money, or not having the success, or not having whatever it was you want, no amount of limitless awareness is going to cover it. Because you're not actually changing the character, guys. That's why you feel good for a moment, or for a lot of moments, or a few days, but nothing sticks and nothing changes. And then you're still watching videos, commenting why I am feels so fucking limitless. But why are you still watching videos? Because you're still subconsciously trying to change your identity to get something. Whew. This is a lot of love, by the way. So, let's go into the question of identity. Okay? Let's go to scripture, the very heart that Neville pointed to. All right? This is from Matthew 16:13-15. When Jesus came into the coast of Caesarea Philippi, and I'm sorry if I'm not pronouncing something correctly, but he asked his disciples, saying, "Whom do men say that I, the Son of Man, am?" And they said, "Some say that you are John the Baptist, some Elias, and others Jeremiah, or one of the prophets." He saith unto them, "But whom say ye that I am?" This is the ultimate question. This is the only question. Not what the world says about you. Not what labels people throw onto you that you've carried around your entire life just assuming that you are, or a label that you came up with and decided that you were, that you just decided to drag through your entire life. But who do you say that I am? And most people aren't even aware of what they are I aming. They're not even aware of the timeline they're in. They can't even see it because they're so embodied in it. It's such a dwelling state. It feels like it's them. And that's just the life they're stuck in. Just like that client that you can read the success that went around for 10 fucking years on a spiritual journey until I was like, well, this is where your awareness is. All right, let's go. Some people get it that quickly. Some people need a little bit more guidance. It's everyone's personal journey. But if you're not actually shifting the consciousness, you're not going to see a change. Okay? So Neville said, I am is God's name. I say that. Levels 6 and 7. That is the name of God. I am. Okay? And every time you answer that question, you clothe the formless in form. All right? If you say, I am overlooked, that's the Christ that you're revealing right now. If you say, I am chosen, that is the Christ that is revealed in you. So the real question, it's not abstract, guys. It's literally immediate. Who do you say that I am? Not with your lips, but with your life. Who are you I aming all day? Who are you being? And if you need a clue to that, look around you. But most people look around and then they are so attached to it that they can't shift out of it. So it's not about just going to I am and just staying there. It's about literally assuming a new everything. That is how I went from, we'll do the part 2 and the part 3 and whatever the fuck else. But that's how I went from literally the life I had after getting hit by an 18-wheeler to owning a 3-story property in Tokyo, living the life of my dreams with complete freedom. I assumed. I looked at who I was being. I was able to go through it. I was able to shift it and change it through assumption. All right? And here's the thing, guys. Like you are answering right now. In the way you wake up, in the way you react, in the state you persist in, whether you know it or not, whether you're aware of it or not, whether you can see it or not, or label it or not, or take an unbiased look at it or not. It's whether your whole life is already shouting the answer back at you. And the world is only ever echoing who you say I am. So let's talk about the death you can't skip. Neville didn't soften this either, guys. He doubled down. All right? Quote, only as one is willing to give up his present limitations and identity can he become that which he desires to be. Directly from your faith is your fortune. Let's repeat that. Only as one is willing to give up his present limitations and identity can he become that which he desires to be. Your faith is your fortune. All right? This is why just be I am never works by itself. It's not going to get you the life you want. It'll feel freeing, but it's not. You're literally living life through collapsing all the quantum particles through your first person awareness. Yeah, you're limitless. You can choose anything, but you still have to persist. Neville, persist. Persist in an identity until you see it reflected back. If there's things you want in your life, I talk to clients who say, yeah, I feel so good, but I don't have anything that I want. Well, I'm not even going to touch that one. But that was something that someone said to me, I think it was last night, actually. She's like, yeah, I feel great, blah, 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 it's going great, but I don't have, she was like, maybe, she didn't have anything that she wanted, but she felt good, which is fine. But it's not about feeling good, it's about living the life that you want. That's why I'm doing this, okay? This is why I am. It's not working by itself, right? Awareness doesn't bury the old you. It doesn't detach from the old you. Watching your patterns doesn't bury the old you. Most people watch their patterns and they say, oh, I always do this, or this always happens, or I always act like this when this happens. And then they're still choosing it. Like the thing about a pattern is when you know you have a pattern, if you're still choosing the pattern, you still keep doing it, it's no longer a pattern, it's a choice. But that's not, just being I am is not freeing you from the actual way you act in your life. Identity is death and rebirth. It is letting go and going into the new. The rejected self, it doesn't die in the sense that Neville talks about. I know he says the death of the old man, but you leave it behind. It goes back to the infinite realms of consciousness, of all the different versions you can be, of all the different timelines you can choose from. The poor self has to die or go back to consciousness. The waiting self gets back and absorbed back into the consciousness. Remember my Sailor Moon video? When she just accepted everything and let it all go back to all there was, and then she chose again? That's why the 3D, it feels chaotic when you shift, guys. It's like the death rattle of the old self trying to hang on to your awareness because it needs your awareness to have a 3D experience. But until you let it die or fade or go away or whatever terminology you want to use, the new one can't stand up and it can't actually clothe in form and come into the 3D experience. And here's the truth, guys. Right? Like, if you won't let the old self go, if you don't let it die, if you don't look at who you're being and consciously work on shifting it, don't be surprised when it keeps coming back. Right? And I have a lot of people, they go to the I am, or they'll get a lot of success and everything will be going great. And then like a few months go by and they're like, oh my God, I went back to who I was and everything fell apart again. Like it's a decision that you stay there. You can't grieve it and keep it, guys. You have to bury it. You have to let it go back to all the infinite choices of consciousness. You can't keep holding on to the same thing and the same identity and just keep it going and going. All right? That's why letting go just is enough. And here's something, most people never face. You can't just let go of an old state and just expect absolute freedom. Dropping the character does not erase it. As I just said, it goes back. It's always a choice. It's always going to exist in one of the movies of infinite timelines that you exist in. The vacuum will always try to pull you back to who you've always been. It just will, unless you dare to step into something new and persist in that identity. And the easiest way to let go of it is to find out what it is. Call a spade, figure it out, and then shift it. That's what I help people with, all right? That's why so many of you who feel like you're just circling and going in circles and looping in the same fucking relationships and the same money patterns and the same this and the same that, and you're just circling. You like release the old self and you feel so light for a moment. I get a lot of these clients, actually. I get a lot of these clients who they'll go off and they'll send me these success stories and that they're feeling really great and everything's so woo-woo. And then they come back like a few months later. I just had another one today, booked 3 calls. Shout out to him. He's one of the OGs. I love him to death, but he was doing so well. And then it came up, I didn't actually shift the identity. I was just, pretending and not really shifting the identity. So everything just came back and slapped him in the face again. And then life presses and you're right back in the same cycle. You feel light, it presses, you're back in the cycle. Like that, the success story of the 10 years. And you guys I know so many of you have been there before. I was there. Plenty of fucking times, all right? Because until you assume differently, until you persist in a new state differently, the old state has nothing to replace it with. Nature abhors a vacuum. It's going to fill it with the previous assumptions. And the mirror will keep reflecting the only identity that you've actually embodied, because you have to be embodied in a state, in an actual identity. You can't skip identity. I don't care what anyone's saying. You can't do it. You cannot skip identity. You are always being conscious of being someone. As long as you're in this 3D holographic experience, you always are choosing a character. Even the character who feels free and doesn't need to choose any character in that's still a character. And good luck to those people getting and keeping your shit forever, or for whatever it is that you want, or having a life that you enjoy. You have all the time in the world when you die to go back to consciousness and be everything and do all that again. While you're here, pass the game. Don't have to repeat the game at the same level again with all the same. It expands. That's a whole different video, okay? But I get it, guys. Letting go, it feels safe when you're just letting go and you're not doing anything, because assuming feels dangerous. Those same people who are saying, "Oh, it just feels so good to let go and do this," they're not actually assuming in their preferred identity. I've talked to a lot of you. That's the difficulty. You feel so unsafe in your imagination to even try to assume differently because it feels dangerous, because you're not used to it with everything else that you've experienced in 3 up until this point. That's why most avoid it, and that's why most never actually shift. Okay? So now let's talk about the mirror's brutality. Here's how brutal the law is. And it's not really brutal, it's just how the law works, right? It just doesn't give a fuck. But Neville said, quote, "To be conscious of being poor while praying for riches is to be rewarded with that which you are conscious of being, namely poverty." The mirror doesn't give a fuck what you want. It doesn't care. I'm sorry, it doesn't care what you say. It doesn't even care how spiritual or expansive you feel in I am. It does not care. It only reflects who you are on an identity level, who you are being. The law of assumption, aka the law of being. You are choosing an identity. This is why people can say, just I am feels limitless and still live in the same fucking cycles. Because the state they're persisting in hasn't actually changed. They're just going to I am, and that's in a way kind of like a form of what people would say is spiritual bypassing. Because you're not actually assuming a new state. You're not actually facing the state that you've been identified with. So you just say, oh, I'm just I am, but your life doesn't look any different. The mirror is ruthless, guys, but it's also really merciful because it will never betray you. It is always 100% reflection of who you're being. It will always show you the truth of who you're being. And that's why it hurts, because it won't let you lie to yourself. You can't escape yourself. I've said this before. I moved all the way across the fucking world thinking that I was going to leave everything behind and I was on this grand adventure and all this stuff. This is way before I discovered the law of assumption. I repeated the same fucking cycles for years, just in another language. The same fucking cycles that I went back in the States. The same cycle again and again and again and again and again. Because I couldn't escape my identity. It was who I was being. Until I shifted who I was being, nothing could shift. And it was a process. It was a journey for me. I'd manifest great things. Then the other things would come up that would test. And it was a whole fucking journey. I made it a lot harder on myself than it needed to be. That's why, because I went through that, that's why I'm so ruthless with my coaching. Because I don't want you guys to have to go through a 10-year journey. Okay? So let's talk about persistence redefined. And this is where persistence comes in. Okay? And once again, to quote Neville, quote, "Man's chief delusion is his conviction that there are causes other than his own state of consciousness." Like, I don't know how much clearer he can be. Persistence isn't about repeating affirmations. It isn't about fighting thoughts and flipping thoughts and just robotically affirming. And then, like my other client I talked to today saying, yeah, I tried robotically affirming, but it didn't fucking work because I wasn't actually in the state. And it was just highlighting and making me feel anxious because I wasn't actually in the state. It was just highlighting I wasn't in the state, which Neville also talks about. Anyone who says, oh, just robotically affirm, it works wonders. Okay, did you keep your shit? Because Neville literally talked about that. Robotically affirming can work for certain things if you have no resistance to it. And you're like, yeah, whatever. Yeah, it's a powerful thing, but you got to stay in the identity. Like, guys, persistence is loyalty. Loyalty to the identity that you've assumed. And when the world is still screaming the opposite at you, you're loyal to the state. You're persisting in the state. That's why Neville said, persist, 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 persist. Because if you don't, the mirror just snaps back to the old you all over again. And then you're back in the same cycle again. Right? Guys, like, the real battle isn't with thoughts. It's not with the feelings. It's not with the 3D circumstances. It's with loyalty. Can you stay true to the identity you've chosen when the world hasn't yet? That's persistence. That's where most fall. And that's why they keep coming back to the same loop again and again and again, because it feels so real. Because they haven't even looked at what identity they're even being. So they're trying to, like, escape something without even seeing what it is. You're like escaping an invisible enemy. That's why the other people get so triggered. They're like, well, I went through all this trauma and blah, 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 and you don't know you gotta heal. You don't have to heal. You just have to know what the fuck you're assuming. So you can actually let it go and assume something else. So now let's talk about the echo and the cost of refusal when you're refusing to persist in a state. And so we return to where we began. Once again, quote, "If you do not dare to assume the state, you will remain as you are," end quote. Neville. That's it. That's the law. The law of being. If you won't assume something different, nothing changes. It's the law of assumption. You'll stay in the loop of awareness, neutrality, and temporary feelings. And you'll just sit there and say, oh, I am just feels so expansive. I am is great. I am is that. Yeah, you are I am. You are that I am. But you are still choosing an identity. If you're on this crew, we shift. We get you to the core of your awareness. We free you into the identity you want to assume. All right? And guys, to circle back, okay, here it is. Not choosing is already a choice. I want to make this very clear because you're always choosing. Not choosing is already a choice. Staying as you are is still assuming an identity. Or not assuming any identity is still assuming an identity. The law doesn't pause because you hesitate. It doesn't say, oh, we're going to take a break today. We're not gonna give what they want because, they decide that they don't want to assume anything today. So we're just going to back up the truck. No, that's not how it works. It reflects anyways. It goes on forever. It's an eternal mirror. And guys, if you're done looping, if you're ready to stop playing with awareness and actually die or let go of the self and into the self that bends reality into your chosen reality, that's the work I do with clients. That's literally what I do. I look at, let's go into it. Let's talk about it. Let's get there. It doesn't have to be a whole fucking thing. It's just, what are the key points? Where are you? Let's shift it. It's an identity shift. And then assume the new state. But the issue is, most people try to assume the new state and they're trying to assume it from the old identity. So nothing sticks and then it just falls apart again. I can't walk the bridge for you. I can't go into your brain and pull a ratatouille and tell you what to think and where to go in consciousness. But I can walk it with you. All right? And the link is below. So for some, you guys this is it, right? Like, you guys, you know who you are if you're ready to make that jump. You know who you are if you're sick of the old patterns and going in the same loops. It's meant to find the ones who are ready for it. My channel is not for everybody. I don't come on here and serve dopamine hits and just make people feel good about reality. I give it to you straight because I got sick of going in the same loops, and now I'm living the life of my fucking dreams. Every day. Every day. I can't even I just think it can't get better, and it just gets better. Every day. I went from, if you watch my OCD video on part 1 of my personal journey, to where I am today. It's like a dream I had one time and one reality, but I persisted in this new identity, and now I'm literally living the life of my dreams. And so can you, because I'm not different than any of you out there. All right? And if you can't keep doing it alone, I'm here. But either way, the mirror, it's not going to lie. It can't lie to you. Okay? So let's stick to Neville when we're talking about the law of assumption, the law of consciousness. And of course, all the other coaches out there, they're all great, but they all talk about the same fucking shit. It's a consciousness. It's assuming an identity. They all talk about it in different ways. I've read all the books. Florence Scovel Shinn. Who do I have right here? Joseph Murphy. Esther Hicks, which, you know how I feel about her. But, I got fucking, what's the other one? Dr. David Hawkins. I don't even know who this person is. Dr. Tara Swart, The Source. I read that one at some point. I have a lot of Neville over here in both Japanese and English. I mean, I've read books on ultimate forgiveness, the I Am discourses, all of it. I get it, guys, but you still have to assume an identity. The law of assumption, the law of being. That is what this is. It's, who do you assume you are? Who do I say that I am? Who do you say you are? Who do you say I am? Okay? All right, I'm going to wrap it up here. I love you guys. I had to hop on. This was straight after the gym. Just in case you guys didn't get to see on my Instagram if you do follow me, but I have my Gear 5. I go to Gold's Gym in this, and I fucking love it. It kind of looks like Gold's Jimmy, but it's Nika, the Luffy Gear 5. But I just felt like I had to get this video out and just get it recorded. So this will be out in a couple days. I still have been putting out the shorts for you guys, and I've been a lot more active on the channel because I've just been enjoying it and having fun with it. But I love you guys, and I'm here, and talk to you guys again. All right?